Good morning. It's 12 noon in Dubai and 11 a.m. in Saudi Arabia. We are pleased to welcome you to today's webinar, which is sponsored by Hitachi Vantara and Redington Gulf. The topic for today's webinar is Managing Unstructured Content Data with Hitachi. And joining me today is our first speaker, Rehan Shahid, who's the Partner Territory Manager for Hitachi Vantara based in Dubai. Good morning, Rehan.
Good morning, Sharad. Thank you so much.
Yeah, happy to have you here. And the floor is going to be yours in just a minute. I expect you to introduce Hitachi Vantara to our audience and highlight what makes Hitachi Vantara the best in the business. So the floor is yours for the next 20 to 25 minutes. And then we'll have our next speaker who will be joining us soon. And for the audience, please keep your questions coming through the chat session or the Q&A tab. At the end of these sessions, I will be happy to pose your questions to our two speakers, and we'll have an interactive session then. So Rehan, if you're all set, floor is yours.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sharad. Just a quick confirmation. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it's all good. Please go ahead.
All right, excellent. So thanks everyone for joining. Really excited to be here. And again, we are definitely starting to come back to our offices. Things are coming back to normal. So today, we have 1 hour for this session where, we'll be covering something about our company, which is Hitachi Vantara. You might have heard the name already, but today I'm going to, tell you and talk about the what, the why, and the how behind, the Hitachi Vantara. And then also the topic for today, the agenda for today is that how, we manage the content data, the unstructured data, and how can our solutions help you into better manage that data challenge. So so just going further, we know that data is increasing every day as we speak, and for all of us the shift is happening toward maximizing the value of data for our respective businesses or your customers and society at large. We see it across our global customer base, faced with increasing disruption. Traditional industrial as well as operational technology companies are investing in latest software solutions to make their hardware and machines more and more connected and smarter. And as a result, we believe that every company must now be a technology company, and for many that means they must fundamentally transform their business and operations. And we know that we're having every day more and more connected devices, much more data every day. And as you can see, this is according to IDC, approximately up to 80 billion devices would be connected by 2025. So this is extremely important. And as a whole, where we come from as Hitachi Vantara and Hitachi Limited. So I'm just going to give you a quick background about where we come from. So we are part of the Hitachi Limited group. So Hitachi Limited was founded more than 110 years ago. I mean, it's a legacy. It's one of those only few unique companies that have still survived 100+ years throughout the First World War, or the Spanish flu in 1918, and the World War II, and then now of course the corona pandemic. So we are a 78+ billion dollar company as per FY20, and with more than 850 subsidiaries, which means that within Hitachi Limited group we have customers of Hitachi Vantara, who are the Hitachi Limited subsidiaries as well. And they form all types of industries. They are into manufacturing, the retail. You might have heard about all of our consumer products, our railway business. If you look at the Riyadh Metro, the third line, that is actually being built by Hitachi Limited, as well as the Jizan refinery, the oil and gas refinery for Saudi Aramco is also being built by Hitachi Limited. So we are into many different businesses and industries, and we even have a bank, interestingly, within our Hitachi Limited organization. So Hitachi Vantara is part of that Hitachi Limited group, which means that being under such a huge group gives us that economic strength and background through the Hitachi Limited mother company. So Hitachi Vantara is what we call as the IT arm, or the digital arm of Hitachi Limited. And this term, Hitachi Vantara, was actually coined in 2016 and 17, where we actually merged 3 companies within Hitachi Limited. So one name in IT, which everybody was very familiar, was was called HDS, Hitachi Data Systems. This is the IT infrastructure, server storage, that Hitachi is known as the Rolls-Royce of storage. And so all of those, cloud solutions and backup solutions, the infrastructure solutions, which fall under the Hitachi Data Systems. And then in 2014 and 15, we acquired a company called Pentaho, which is an open source analytics company and data integration company, as well as Lumada, which is what was known as the Insights Group for our IoT platform. And also in IoT platform, Hitachi is the leader in the IoT platforms. So these 3 companies, along with their other ecosystem of services and vertical expertise, as well as data scientists, and the whole ecosystem, were then combined together into what we now call as Hitachi Vantara. And additionally, what happened in January 2020 was that the Hitachi Consulting was also merged into Hitachi Vantara, which probably gave us a very unique advantage in the industry, having the full consultancy arm as well as the capability to deliver that from an end-to-end solutions perspective. So from our perspective, we feel that many companies are now swimming in data, but are still searching for insights. Only a precious few companies found out how to fully use the value of their data, and that's because in many cases they've probably lacked the right partner. And according to McKinsey and company, only 40% of industries are truly digitized, and that's where we come in, right? We are guides, creators, designers, engineers, and experts committed to designing and delivering data-driven solutions for people who see data as an opportunity. The people, like yourselves, who see through the complexity and noise to recognize ways to transform their business and improve the impact they make on the world. So data hence becomes the core opportunity for all of us. And how do we as Hitachi Vantara see that data? Is we see it as a stairway to value, and this can be your data journey as well as a customer. And at Hitachi Vantara, we are a data company with the best IP, domain expertise and data driven technology systems that Hitachi has to offer. And in this staircase, we basically term it as SEAM. Store, enrich, activate, and monetize your data, and we help maximize the return on data at every step of this stairway to value, where we have solutions to store, protect all types of data, be structured data or unstructured data, or edge data, or the cloud data, as well as we help catalog and classify data in order to enrich it for much more business agility, where we help to integrate and orchestrate that data with other data sources, and then eventually to help monetize that data, where you actually see the value of that data within your organization. So we call this as our SEAM approach, which, like I mentioned, can also be your data journey as well. In terms of Hitachi Vantara, we're a trusted data-driven innovators everywhere, and we are more than 10,000 customers worldwide, with 85% of Fortune global 100 companies. And I think that having 9 out of top banks, and 9 out of top communications and media and entertainment companies, and 9 out of top 10 telecom companies probably speaks a lot about Hitachi Vantara's strength and solutions, and standing across the whole industry. And here are some of those names industry wide, where we have all of these as our referenceable customers, if any of our customers would like to speak to those as well. So basically we span across all of these different industries. Now, as part of Hitachi Vantara Solutions, we are divided into what we call as digital infrastructure business unit and digital solutions business unit. And part of our digital infrastructure business unit, we feel that the the data center modernization depends on the foundation of those portfolio that we have. And definitely the physical infrastructure plays a key role into modernizing the data center. And across this physical infrastructure, in our solution space, we have storage solutions, like I mentioned before, across our hybrid space, which we call as VSP G series, and we have our all flash series under VSP F, and VSP E series, which is all NVMe storage. And then the object storage, which is what we're going to be covering today, called HCP, the Hitachi Content Platform, for unstructured and content data, as well as solutions across converged, hyper converged, called as Unified Compute Platform. And we have solutions for converged with the applications such as SAP HANA and Oracle and large virtualization solutions, as well as hyper-converged solutions based on VMware vSAN. And then of course across the whole stack of software-defined infrastructure, ranging from virtualization to container platforms such as the Kubernetes and Docker, as well as Red Hat OpenShift, and with VMware Cloud Foundation Suite as well. And then all of these infrastructure topped with our top of the line management solutions, where we have infrastructure automation, service orchestration, like you can deploy templates to speed up your provisioning for certain applications, like for example SQL Server. So within a few clicks you'll have an SQL Server database deployed across your infrastructure, and you can do that same for an Oracle as well as Exchange. And data protection solutions, as well as data analytics and solutions which can give you an end-to-end view from your storage to your virtual machine. And of course across the whole application stack, with all of those major applications being supported underneath. So With unstructured data, we know that it is, the key, and we know that the exponential growth, rather happens more on the unstructured data versus the structured data. And this is an IDC, forecast that we have looked at from a worldwide, block, file, and object storage forecast comparison. And as you can see, across 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023, the file scale up solutions versus the file scale out solutions are probably growing in a much more, linear fashion, as well as the block storage solution. However, when you look at the object storage market, the content storage itself, as per IDC, the forecast is probably much more, exponential, across, starting from 200, exabytes to, close to 500 exabytes by 2023. And this is why, these content, storage solutions are extremely important and extremely relevant for any customer, in addition to file storage as well as block storage. So in Hitachi, the content storage solution or the platform is called as Hitachi Content Platform. And how do we address a lot of those use cases is what I will be now, speaking about. So in terms of Hitachi Content Platform, we probably cover what we call as some of those initial use cases that we have been delivering, since many years, namely, metadata management. This is where, if you have huge amounts of data, you're able to classify your data, to tag your data, you can tag your data across departments, across HR, finance. You can tag your data for better search capabilities. You can tag your data for compliance reasons, for reasons, such as if it's a customer data. So how do you protect that data? And we know that there are a lot of compliance reasons coming out for user data as well. Our local versions of GDPR, the data protection laws that we have. So HCP platform, helps tag that data as well as add, metadata to that data as well. One of the initial use cases is also data archiving. As a general rule, we know that 30% of data is active, and which means, we'll use that data perhaps, today, or in 1 week, or in 1 month, or maybe in 6 months, depending on each organization. The relevance of the data being active, but usually we say that it's 30% data is active and 70% data is inactive. However, we still need that data even though it's inactive. So this is where the archiving solutions come in. So we integrate with all of those file solutions, such as OpenText, FileNet, so all of the document management solutions, as well as SharePoint. We have solutions for email archiving that we integrate with all of those email archiving softwares that are available. So also, in terms of archiving, it really helps reduce your costs of a tier 1 storage. So offloading that data onto a content storage for an archiving use case, has a lot of TCO benefits as well. And then in terms of data protection, we have endpoint ransom-aware data protection solutions, which we also term as file sync and share solutions, known as HCP Anywhere. So these are for your laptops and desktops. We know that ransomware attacks through the laptops and desktops. This is where our ransomware aware HCP platform helps protect that data, and you will have a Google Drive like or a Dropbox like functionality within your organization to be able to share those large files, as well as protect your end user laptops and desktops. And then also, if you have any remote offices or branch offices, file services requirement, so instead of doing that standard FTP, so we have those HCP edge, gateway solutions available, that can help bring that data from a remote office or a branch office to your central HCP solution. So this is very, very handy. A lot of customers have actually deployed these HCP gateway solutions, and it is highly, because the data is uploaded in a multi-parallel stream manner, so it is very effective from a bandwidth perspective as well. We have solution also in terms of backup optimization. This is where offloading a lot of that data. First of all, when you archive that data, for example, you help reduce the size of your active backup as well, because let's say if you're going to archive 70% of data, so backing up 30% of that active data helps reduce and optimize your backup platforms as well. And then secondly, we have solutions where we can also do tape replacement with HCP platforms. So if you have, for example, a Veritas net backup solution, so our HCP platform can help replace the tapes in your environment as well. And then, of course, for some of the newer use cases across a hybrid cloud storage, so you have a HCP platform on premise, and if you want to also have a hybrid cloud, use any public cloud in order to save your data, that is also very much possible with our HCP platform. Content mobility, again, if you're using your any type of device, it can be your mobile phone or your iPads or your laptop or your desktops, this is where the HCP Anywhere helps give you that data virtually everywhere. And then we have use case for HCP and unstructured content data for servers like file servers and NAS storage consolidation as well, because HCP has the capability to go to exabytes scalability. This is where consolidating file server and storage NAS storage solutions is very, very handy. Of course, when we talk about the usage in terms of the the innovation areas, this is where the IoT solutions, the big data solutions come in very, very handy, and this is where the HCP platform is very, very relevant, because we know that customers who have big data reservoirs, the growth of that big data nodes has been very, very exponential in the past 2-3 years. We've seen people going from 8 nodes to 32 nodes of big data appliance within 2 to 3 years. So HCP can optimize that big data workload and offload a lot of that data into HCP platform, which helps reduce, of course, the number of nodes as well as the size and the licenses on that production big data nodes as well. So across our edge as well as analytics space in terms of IoT solutions, HCP works as a tier 1 storage for a lot of cloud application development solutions across different use cases. So I guess these were the high level use cases that I wanted to speak about, how as Hitachi Vantara we cover that unstructured data and the content data across different use cases. And I guess in summary, if you look at HCP across a number of use cases, it can be 3 use cases, 4 use cases as per your organization, 5 use cases. That's where you see even better TCO of Hitachi Content Platform. If you start deploying maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 more use cases, because HCP is actually a multi-tenant platform, which obviously we'll talk about in later session. how do we stand from a market and perspective? So firstly, as you can see from IDC, so we have two basically major analysts when we speak about the market share. So of course Gartner is there and IDC is there. With Gartner, what they do is actually they combine two different use cases into one, which is the distributed file systems and the object storage. So it's very difficult to find out who is probably a true leader in either of those use cases, in either a distributed file system or an object storage only use case. However, IDC only speaks about the object storage use case, and so that's a much better representation from an analyst perspective. And as you can see, so the last published marketscape, which IDC calls it, was in 2009 on the object-based storage. And as you can see, the size of the bubble represents the market share. So the larger the bubble, the better you are positioned from a market perspective. And then it also represents where your solution stands. Are you in among the major players, or are you in the leaders? And then across capabilities, so the higher you are, that means the better capabilities you have. And across strategies, which means the more on the right side you are, you're better positioned from a future use cases and strategies perspective. And as you can see, Hitachi Vantara is probably the leaders in the leaders, positioned among the highest in terms of capabilities and in the rightmost space in terms of future strategies as well. And this is as per IDC. We've been a leader for the fourth straight year in IDC. And that with the recent use cases, like I mentioned, for IoT, media management, AI, machine learning, this is where we are now seeing the trend towards an all flash based content storage as well. And HCP is perfectly positioned along with its cloud scale for a lot of native S3 based applications as well. So I think that was my last slide. So Sharad, I'll hand it over back to you, and over to you, Sharad.
Yeah, thanks, Rayan. We have quite a few people in the audience from Saudi Arabia. So if you can very quickly just let them know how they can reach out to you for any of their requests that they might have for information. So I don't know if you want to put out your email address maybe on the chat, or give them some URL for additional information. And while you are doing that, I think it's time for me to introduce our next speaker, and that is Santosh Shukla, who is the pre-sales specialist consultant at Hitachi Vantara. And he's going to talk to us more about the technical aspects of the Hitachi Vantara offering. So Santosh, when you are ready, please take the stage. It's yours.
Thank you, Sharad. Thank you, Rehan. Am I audible firstly?
Yes, yes, we can hear you clearly.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much. So thanks, Sharad, once again for introduction, and thanks, Rehan, for that pitch about where the content, where does Hitachi Content Platform stand, and what is the market share, and what is that we are seeing in the customer sites these days in terms of data growth and things like that. So I'm not going to talk those slides. I had that, but I think Rehan, you covered it well. So let's straight away get to the product actually, and the use cases that this product actually addresses. There are many use cases, but let me first introduce what is the portfolio of the product that we're talking about. So The Hitachi Content Platform, it's not a single product. It's basically a mix. It's an ecosystem of multiple products, which builds a solution to meet use cases, various use cases that our customers need these days. To begin with, the Hitachi Content Platform is an object storage platform that offers multiple protocols, the likes of SIFs natively, S3, REST API for applications that understand and have been written in REST. They can actually read and write onto this platform directly using REST protocol. And then, built onto that is HCP Gateway and HCP Anywhere Edge. This is basically to bring the content platform or the S3 to the edge. What I mean by that is that you may have a branch offices or remote offices where you want to actually, you have applications over there which are reading and writing, contents into S3 or REST API or SIFs and NFS protocol, and you want to basically make sure that the data is not traveling over WAN because of performance reasons. So you can basically bring the whole HCP content platform onto the edge to the HCP gateway. Then is the HCP Anywhere, which is basically your OneDrive on the users' laptops and desktops, which basically makes sure that you get a file sync and share without having a hassle of, deploying a NAS storage, which has its own, baggage in terms of protecting the data, managing the data for the users and things like that. So that's HCP Anywhere, basically making file services available over cloud to your users and making them collaborate and giving them control of their own data, and at the same time making sure it's compliant and protected in real time. Then is content intelligence. Basically, once you have all this content onto the HCP content platform, you can actually build on top of it an enterprise search engine, the likes of Elasticsearch and the famous Google search, but on the public domain. Here we're talking about on the private domain in the private platform. Basically running through a search, through indexing all the content and making them available through the search engine, which understands natural languages and things like that, to be able to make the content available to the users for analytics, for quick search and quick find and things like that. So you'll see the band here, the traditional use cases and the modern use cases. The traditional use cases that the platform takes care of is the archiving. The famous use case actually is the email archiving through Enterprise Vault or through Commvault archiving, or backup reduction in terms of deduplication, compression, so on and so forth. So there are many use cases. I'm going to touch base on few of the very important and crucial use cases that we see in the market today and that our customers are actually asking us to build a solution for them. I'm not going to cover archiving because this is pretty much old and it's very traditional. It's where the content platform actually took off from. So we're gonna touch base on modern use cases, like a hybrid use cases. But before we get into why should we actually have a Hitachi content platform for all these unstructured data use cases, there are many reasons, and few of the very strong reasons that you see on the slide here is that we are the only platform, as far as my knowledge goes, who provides 15 nines of data durability, which basically means that a one bit data loss every 1 trillion years. So that is as good as 100% availability of data onto this platform. 10 nines of accessibility, which means if we were to build a 3-site, 4-site solution for you, you would have access to the data not with an SLA of 10 nines. Now, if you really look at the public clouds, they are hardly offering 4 nines of accessibility. They may offer 11 to 12 nines of data durability, but when it comes to accessibility, they hardly go up to 4 nines to 5 nines. We keep multiple copies of metadata, so there's no single point of failure. It's all customer configurable, so you could have not all unstructured data are of same value. So you could have some unstructured data which you want to store only twice, and some of them more than twice. So you can configure it how much of the data is value to you and how much you want to protect them in terms of copies of the data platform. This content validation, automatic repair, which goes without saying, which is part of the which is part of this platform ever since it was actually built. The replication up to 6 sites. So not just one-to-one replication, but replication up to 6 sites. And these are all active replication, which means when you have a bucket, it's actively available for read and write from all the sites. There's object versioning, so you don't have to back up this platform, because as Rehan was explaining in his slides, the data, unstructured data, usually grows into petabytes and to hundreds of petabytes, and then beyond petabyte goes to exabytes with some customers. So you don't want to back up this data. This is the platform, this is the target platform where your data comes and basically rests and expires. So you don't want to back up. So you want to have some level of protection in terms of data immutability. So in addition to data immutability, we offer object versioning. So if there's a change in the data, we make sure that we protect the original content for you to refer. And then obviously there's an audit logging in terms of accessibility, in terms of data modification, and so on and so forth. There's other features in terms of data protection and compliance. There's retention. You can put the data object on hold for legal requirements, for compliance requirements, and things like that. You can have a policy-based automation. What that means is you can have faster drives behind HCP, which holds recent data, and then you can drain this data out into the public cloud or onto the slower drives based on the policy that you define on your object. There's access and security efficiency in terms of authentication. It integrates with the LDAP, Active Directory, for authentication. There's encryption for data and rest. There's an encryption for data in motion. We support TLS encryption for data in motion. Standard REST API for your application that understand and read and write REST to be able to integrate with HCP platform. The platform inherently supports deduplication and compression to be able to make sure that data which can be compressed and deduplicated will be stored on this platform and will get the best data storage efficiency. So let's jump into the use cases. The first use case I have taken here is the backup, which is data protection. So guys, if I'm really going fast, please please put that in the chat, because I have a lot of other use cases to cover. So I'm trying to make sure that we cover as many use cases as possible. So data protection challenge. What are the data protection challenges which our customers see today? Of course, the tape is a traditional way of taking a backup, but you don't see that today in the market. Most of these tape libraries have been replaced by appliances. The problem with appliances that we see is you are stuck with a vendor, or you're stuck with a model of the appliance that you purchase. In which case, what happens is when you buy a particular appliance and your data is growing, you may have to replace the appliance to be able to meet their growing data needs. Because these appliances have fixed scale-up capacity, they can only fit so much data into it. They are not infinite, scaling. And there are certainly, most of them, or rather 95% of these appliances available in the market are all scale up. They are not even scale up. So either you run out of capacity on these appliances, or you run out of performance or CPU cycles to be able to store that backup stream, in which case you'll miss your backup SLA. And of course, the other alternative is going to public cloud. So you can back up to public cloud because the public cloud promises infinite scalability, infinite capacity, and so on and so forth. But the problem with these, the appliances, the public cloud, is basically the cost. Appliances, of course, is the operational issues, and the public cloud is, of course, the cost and the compliance, because your data is going out of your data center. So this is where Hitachi Content Platform helps. One is it is faster than tape library for sure, because the data is getting stored on disk. So it's certainly faster. It doesn't take days and weeks to restore the data. It happens in hours. The other benefit of Hitachi Content Platform is on-prem. So the data is not moving outside your premises, and it's fully compliant. It meets your industry compliance, whether you're in the banking industry, government industry, healthcare industry, or a security industry. So it meets your compliance needs. At the same time, it is not having limitation of the appliances, which means the content platform itself can scale infinitely on-prem, and it is scale-out model. So you're scaling your performance and your capacity needs as your backup data is growing linear. So over here you have literally unlimited scale, no single point of failure, and all those benefits of 15 nines of data durability and 10 nines of data accessibility applies over here for your backup platform as well. Now, if you really were to compare appliances on-prem, none of the appliances actually offers 15 nines of data durability. Yes, they promise data availability and things like that, but that goes only up to 5 nines. We're talking about 15 nines of data availability, even for your backup data on this platform, with a cost which is fractional of what you'll be paying for these features on a public cloud. So, of course, what are the benefits? Most of that we just discussed is integrating your enterprise backup solution, reducing your backup cost, scaling up to exabytes, and protecting your data and replicating it up to multiple sites, not just one-to-one, but one-to-many sites. Securing your critical data with strong security and compliance. As I explained, if you're a PCI DSS, you would need a data at rest and data in motion encryption, which is what is offered by the platform, which you may not get. You may get data at rest encryption with backup platform, but you may not get data in motion encryption with the backup appliances in the market. So these are the benefits that you get by applying it, by using Hitachi Content Platform for your backup offload use cases. And who do we integrate with? Pretty much every leading backup vendor out there in the market. Veritas gets natively integrated with our REST API to the Hitachi Content Platform. Veeam gets integrated through the NAS protocol. Commvault is natively integrated through the S3 and REST API. Rubrik, of course, gets integrated, IBM Spectrum Product, and so on and so forth. So pretty much almost all enterprise backup softwares are integrated with REST and S3 protocol and onto the Hitachi Content Platform. So I'll just quickly jump to what other use cases we have here. We have Splunk. So most of you, or maybe almost all of you, might have SOC SIEM solution, and quite famous and the leading SIEM solution in the market that we see is Splunk. But the problem with Splunk is Splunk collects data from traditional VMs, servers, storage devices, network devices, and now even expands to basically sensors, IoT devices, so on and so forth. So not just traditional, but even the IoT use case can be integrated to look at the security and monitor the security posture through the Splunk solution. The problem with that is basically as your devices grows, your data grows, and Splunk is licensed based on capacity. So one of our customers here was actually storing one terabyte per day. He was using 1 terabyte of Splunk license per day. That was his Splunk licensing. 1.5 years later, he calls us and he says, what, I have a new use case where my Splunk use case needs to be expanded to IoT devices, to terminals, POS terminals, and so on and so forth. And they said, what, our Splunk requirement now has gone from 1 terabyte to literally 5 terabyte per day. And in future, 2 years down the line, we'll be going up to 10 and then 15 terabyte Splunk licensing. Now that's a lot of data coming onto the Splunk. Problem with that is you cannot have a storage, primary storage tier to cater Splunk requirement. And this is where Hitachi Content Platform comes into play, because the more data you store on the primary storage, you're not only spending Splunk, licenses on Splunk, but you're also spending money on buying primary and fast storage. And this is where Splunk, helps Splunk with Hitachi Content Platform comes to the rescue. So what the solution we proposed there was basically put the index tier, the hot tier, basically the data which is hot, data that is less than 30 days old, gets stored on the Hitachi primary storage platform. Data that is warm, which is 1 to 3 months old, goes on to the NL SAS tier on a separate storage, and data that is 3 months to 1 year old, because their compliance requirement was to keep data for 1 year, goes onto the cold tier, which is Hitachi Content Platform, which is S3 native S3 compliant. And this is the smart store solution which Splunk and Hitachi Content Platform can work out for you, which offers you most cost efficient, highly available, and seamless search experience in real time for your Splunk use case. So that's basically putting traditional logs of databases, machines, servers, VMs, and whatnot, as well as the machine data, log data, POS terminal data, and things like that through Splunk on a most cost-efficient manner, but also not losing the SLA of, and not losing the performance of your search indexes through the Splunk platform. So that's the benefit that you get. Basically, you get to tier the data based on the age through the Splunk platform. At the same time, you get to decouple the storage and the servers for the indexers and the search engine in the Splunk platform. And you get to optimize the data to stay longer and store longer onto a cheaper platform or a most cost-efficient platform on site, which is Hitachi Content Platform. And it is all seamless and it's simple because it is all natively integrated into Splunk. Splunk understands these protocols. It understands the hot tier, warm tier, and cool tier, and it's native. And it also understands that the cool tier is actually coming from the S3 platform. That's a Splunk Smart Store solution in combination with Hitachi Content Platform to give you cost efficiency, scale, and simplicity for your growing unstructured data through Splunk and SOC requirements. Now, I remember Rehan also touched on Hadoop use case, where you may have started with the Hadoop platform with a simple 4 nodes or 8 nodes or 10 nodes platform where you may have some terabytes of data. However, as the use case keeps building up, your platform scales out and it grows exponentially. So over here, what we offer is it's not just a platform, not just the hardware, but also a software piece, which is what we call as Lumada Data Optimizer. It's an API that gets installed in your worker nodes in the Hadoop cluster, and which makes your HDFS see the Hitachi Content Platform, which is S3 object bucket, as a native HDFS. So over here again, you get a seamless expansion of your Hadoop cluster node through HDFS platform, and you get to store these cold data, which is not required for day-to-day analytics, into the cold tier, which is Hitachi Content Platform. And again, this is all on-prem, and this is all highly available. And what is the benefit of this? The biggest benefit of this is basically, the licenses on Cloudera or the likes of Cloudera platform today available in the market are licensed based on the nodes. So if you buy 8 node Cloudera, you've got to pay 8 node of Cloudera license. When you expand to 20 nodes, you've got to pay 20 nodes license. But most of the times you'll see that the data is growing faster than the performance requirement of the customer. So, if your data can fit into 8 nodes for last 1 year of data, you don't really need to buy another 20 nodes to be able to, just keep those data into the cold eye. And exactly this is where Hitachi Content Platform comes into help, and basically tiers the data into the cold tier, which is not required for day-to-day analytics, and reducing the number of nodes required, and hence, reducing the license spend that you have on Cloudera and the Hortonworks and so on, and similar platforms. So basically, you can grow your Hadoop platform without growing your licensing cost, and seamlessly integrating Content Platform into the Hadoop. I see questions, but I'm going to take it after I finish with the presentation. I hope that's fine. So let's move to the next use case, which is file sync and share. I touched base on this earlier, but just to give you a highlight, you may have heard of, or you may be using Dropbox, Box, or OneDrive in your corporate or in your personal setup. However, when you use Dropbox and things like that in your personal setup, that may not be compliant with your company policy. And when you're building an unstructured data platform like Hitachi Content Platform for other use cases, you can actually expand it to add one more use case, which is Hitachi Content Platform Access Anywhere, which is what gives you OneDrive-like feature on your mobile and your laptops or your desktops seamlessly to make your data accessible, and synchronize it and collaborate it across all the users in your corporate. You can also share this data outside your corporate. You can recover data by yourself. You don't have to reach out to the IT to be able to recover your data. The data is protected and versioned on the Hitachi Content Platform, and all the versions are available for you to recover. The data is accessible through mobile devices and can integrate with your SharePoint to be able to make sure it's also part of your enterprise collaboration too. So that's basically making sure Hitachi Content Platform Anywhere is making your data available, and it's also making it cloud ready without actually going out there and using Dropbox and Box for sharing your corporate data, which may eventually be non-compliant in your corporate environment. Right. Now, let's move to the next one, which is Hitachi Content Platform Gateway Solution. This is a recent addition to our portfolio. This is basically making sure the content platform sifts NFS as well as the S3 is reachable or rather accessible to your branch office. So one of the use cases here is basically if you have branch office, remote offices, you can make sure that the users are getting SIFs and NFS access locally to them on those branch sites. And what happens in the end is basically the users will get a local LAN-like performance, a local network-like performance without accessing the data over the WAN link to the corporate data center. At the same time, they get all the benefits of object versioning, compliance, restore capabilities, archiving, and things like that onto their user directories. So Hitachi HCP Gateway offers two protocols, SIFs and NFS into the branch office. We have a use case. We have a couple of customers here who had 8 to 10 branch offices where they were ingesting terabytes and terabytes of data every day, which was required to be brought into the main offices. And we offer them Hitachi Content Platform Gateway, which gives them local SIFs NFS access. Now the users, they copy the data locally over there, which gets cached for a day. And after a day, the HCP Gateway moves the data to the central side. Now this 1 day buffer is great because then the customer doesn't have to invest in a big fat WAN pipe, and they can actually, rely on HCP Gateway to move the data in the background whilst protecting the data on the local side as well as into the corporate main data center. So that's it gives you full native experience of SIFs and NFS. It basically is nothing but a SIFs and NFS or rather file services, Windows file services on remote office, branch office without actually deploying any file services. Fully compliant, gives you legal hold retention. You can make sure that the data is legal hold protected, and you can put a retention policy to it on the branch offices, which mostly you will not get these features if you were to deploy a NAS solution centrally and make it accessible over WAN link. At the same time, you may not get this if you were to deploy file services in every of the branch services. Besides, managing file services in every branch office is itself a big headache and a very, very complex operational task. Of course, policy-based, you can define policies about what data needs to be kept locally, for how long it needs to be kept locally for caching. At the same time, how fast the data, or rather, what is after how much time and how much days the data needs to be moved to the central site. There's a bottomless storage. The gateway comes with its own local NVMe disks, so you don't need to buy an external storage footprint. You can basically use the NVMe drives which are available in the gateway to be able to access the file systems and store the data in a high performance manner locally. Files are protected in real time. If you put a retention policy to the file retention policy as archive, the file will be stored or rather replicated to the content platform before it gets committed back to the user. So basically, the files are always protected in real time, or the file could be protected in a staged, scheduled manner depending on the policy that you set up. This is a backup-free solution. So imagine if you were to have a NAS solution, you have to not only deploy a NAS and make it accessible to the branch offices, but you need to also do data protection for the NAS. And compare that with the file services. You may have to deploy file services in every branch offices, Windows file services, NFS file services, and you'll have to go and protect those file services in every location, either in the local site or centrally in your data center. However, with HCP Gateway, this is a totally backup-free solution because it is using HCP's backup-free platform to be able to give you those file services in a high-performance manner as a local cache into every branch office. So this is the last one is basically for the customers who are already existing Hitachi Data Intelligent appliance. If there are customers who are using HDI, which was the previous version of HCP Gateway, it can seamlessly migrate those data into the HCP and HCP Gateway without changing any shares or quotas or permissions and so on and so forth. So basically, these are the key features. You get the gateway. It's a physical appliance, or it can be a VM form factor, and that can be made accessible to the users in the branch office through SIFs and NFS. You can apply retention and worm to those shares. The data will be available as a local cache. So for the users, they will not. The data is available as a local cache from the NVMe drives in the branch office. The data is not traveling over the WAN link, which could be a slow WAN pipe. you could store a large data, you could store terabyte of file, and it will basically chunk the data into a GB and then replicate it back into the HCP platform. The gateway itself is highly available and it can be replicated. It can replicate to the DR site. Just quickly move through. So you have the data which is stored locally and it is cached in every site, and it is made read-write into one site and read-only available into the multiple different sites. So what you see on the screen here is 4 sites where there's London branch office, Boston branch office, Tokyo branch office, and then we have a HCP platform in the corporate data center in Denver. The Boston users are writing data into HCP through the local gateway. They can read-write the data locally here as a cache. At the same time, the branch office users in London and Tokyo can also see that data, provided they have a permission, of course. And they can actually, they cannot modify, but they can see the data that has been written by these users. So that's how you can make it, you can make this data not just read-only and read-write, but even the London users can write data into the share, which can be available as read-only into the other branch offices. So in that sense, it becomes read-write for multiple shares from multiple branch offices. So my last use case is basically Hitachi Content Intelligence. This is a solution that basically runs, it basically adds metadata enrichment, which does metadata enrichment over all the unstructured data that you may have stored in the platform, be it archive data, be it CIFS NFS data through your gateway, or CIFS NFS data through your HCP anywhere, or through the backup data. You can actually do a metadata enrichment and make that data actually available for search or for further analytics. So content intelligence, basically there's 3 things. It basically connects to the data sources, right? Different data sources, could be your SQL databases, could be your Oracle databases, or could be your shared file services coming from your flat file. It also extracts all parts of this data. It basically learns this data. It understands this data. It uses machine learning algorithms to basically understand the structure of the data, and it adds metadata on top of it, which is what we call as metadata enrichment. So once it does the metadata enrichment, this metadata is indexed, and then it is available to do search, and it is available to basically do review access. You can search through this data using your natural language, just like how you do your Google search. You can actually do a Google search like, you get a Google search like tab through Hitachi Content Intelligence to search through all the data that is stored on your Hitachi Content platform. Now imagine if you have hundreds of petabytes of data which are all unstructured. So we all know unstructured data do not have metadata. You have to build metadata. You cannot search through all the unstructured data, right? This Hitachi Content Intelligence adds intelligence to the content that you have stored. Basically, this whole 100 petabyte of data, you're adding intelligence and you're making it available for search, available for review, available for access. So let's say you stored a PDF document which has a user that needs to be put on legal hold. You can search through the username or the date that you stored the file or the file name or any of the content inside that PDF file. And you can basically get out of this 100 petabyte, you can search this one PDF file with any of the content in the PDF file, and you can put a legal hold. You can simply right click that file and you can put a legal hold to that file. So that's basically a couple of screenshots of Hitachi Content Intelligence. The workflow designer is basically connecting to the data sources and preparing a workflow, and then monitoring the whole workflow in terms of the success, failures, how much data has been ingested, how much data is searched, how much data is basically indexed, and so on and so forth. The system configuration is for the system administrators or the HCP administrators to basically configure the whole content platform, content intelligence platform. So basically, one of the use cases could be, I have a lot of data, but the number of search engines that I have deployed, the search VM that I have deployed, are not enough to basically search through all this data in a given SLA. So you can add more search engines, which can speed up the whole search and content metadata enrichment. And the second part to the content intelligence is the actual search engine. So you get this tab where you can search through entire content and basically do all sort of things. Basically, do the review of the content, access it, you put legal hold, and use it for any other purposes that may be fit. So I'm going to quickly browse, quickly run through because we are almost at the end of the time. So Hitachi Content Intelligence can connect to the unstructured data as well as structured data, which is what I was talking about, the SQLs and the oracles of the world. It can also connect to the semi-structured data, the likes of JSONs, XMLs that you may have. The content intelligence, by the way, comes with the ready-made, standard connectors that Hitachi has built for almost all the famous, or rather databases or unstructured data types. We connect to Avros, we connect to Parquet files, we connect to JSONs, XMLs, SQLs through ODBC, JDBCs, and oracles of the world. And then as the next stage in the workflow pipeline, we stage the data inside the search engine. And through the staging process, we do all those sort of metadata enrichment. Once we have done the metadata enrichment, we index that data and store it in the content intelligence and make it available for the workflow content search to be able to give to the users whenever they want to search through the platform. So what else? I mean, you might say that, okay, but that's dangerous because, any user who has access to content intelligence could actually access throughout all the unstructured data that I have stored. Well, no, not really, because the content intelligence also gets natively integrated with your Active Directory, LDAPs, and certificates. So, it does use a strong authentication and authorization method where not every user has access to all the content. The user has access only to either his own content or the content that he's been given access to through the authorization mechanism, which is being configured. We can also help you build custom connectors. So if you have a data source which is not for which we do not have a ready-made connector, we can actually build a content connector for you. We can help you build pipelines, and of course, as part of our PS deployment, help you build the whole use case for that content search engine. One of a very large banking customers that we have in the Europe has actually deployed content intelligence for GDPR use case. So they've actually, Hitachi has built connectors for all the unstructured and semi-structured and structured data sources. And we have built a use case where we actually can tell the bank, or rather the bank can actually find out users which are part of the EU region, or customers which are part of the EU region, customers which are part of outside EU region, and they can then deploy the GDPR policies that has been dictated by their compliance team onto these data that has been stored for the EU and the non-EU customers. So I'm gonna just quickly go through the system architecture over here. Again, this content intelligence can also make the data not only available for search, but can also be used by custom applications. And one of the applications that we have noticed that most of our matured and enterprise customers use is the Pentaho Business Analytics. You can basically build charts, graphs, and things like that on the content that is being available and made available through REST API from the content intelligence. Now, in a nutshell, I know this is not analytics presentation, but in a nutshell, what is Pentaho BA? Pentaho BA is Pentaho Business Analytics software. It is the likes of Power BI from Microsoft. It gives you those, the Power BI like charts, graphs, and for your business analysts, for your analytic users, and for your UN business users to basically build the charts and graphs and KPIs into a graphical format. So the Pentaho BA can connect through the REST API to the content intelligence cluster and take use of the index and the metadata enrichment that we have done on all these source data, which is coming from the left. So with that, I'm gonna move on to the last leg of the presentation. And who are the ISVs that we work with? We're not working in isolation, of course. When we're talking about use cases like backup integration, archive integration, Splunk integration, Hadoop integration, and so on and so forth, we have to work with bigger ecosystem. We have to work with vendors outside Hitachi. So in the healthcare, you will notice we're working with pretty much every leading vendor. Epic is certainly one of the leading vendors out there. For the data moving part, where we want to move the data from third-party data platform, we work with these data providers. Now, this slide is only highlighting it's just a summary of the ISV vendors that we work with. And you'll notice we're working with Cloudera, Mapper, Elixio, and of course our own Pentaho tool for the big data use case. Enterprise content management, the use case that I didn't cover actually, because this is what I believe is traditional, where you may have Documentum, open text and FileNet for your for your content management. You can actually natively store into Hitachi Content Platform through S3 or through REST API integration. And of course, for enterprise archiving, you have Veritas Enterprise Vault, Commvault, Rubrik for data protection, Splunk Smart Store, which natively integrates into Hitachi Content Platform. So yeah, we can share the link with you about the standard ISVs or the enterprise ISVs that we work with, and we are developing these connectors pretty much every week on week, month on month, to be able to make sure that we are in line and we give seamless experience and seamless integration to our customers when they deploy any one of these use cases. So with that, I'll end my presentation, and I would like to again thank all of you for your patience. Thank all of you for giving us your time today to understand, to learn what we have to offer in unstructured data management, unstructured data world. Thank you once again, and I'll take the questions now, or over to you, Sharad.
Yeah, thanks, Santosh. That was really interesting. I think everybody is up to speed from the technology aspect of Hitachi Vantara solutions. Now it's question time. I request the audience to post their questions in the chat or the Q&A tab. The first one we have is from Ali, and I think this can be answered by Rehan. And the question is, has the hybrid work environment increased the data storage requirements? Rehan, you want to comment?
I think yes, absolutely. I mean, what hybrid work environment has done is basically it has put in a lot of that load into the unstructured data creation. So as opposed to what we used to be doing in office, probably in a hybrid model, there's a lot of dependency that we have seen coming in terms of the file data sprawl that we also see across the whole organization. So there's much more content that is being produced these days across various industries. There's much more data challenges because of that content that we have seen coming in, especially in the hybrid working model.
Right. And Rehan, I have a question for you. Since you handle marketing in the region, I'm curious to know which countries in this region you are seeing a spike in, and where are you concentrating? Is it UAE? Is it Saudi? Is it GCC, North Africa? So can you highlight some of the industries where you are noticing this growth? Is it fintech? Is it education? Whatever. So throw some light on these aspects.
So I think that's a great question, Sharad. In terms of the region, Middle East in general, we have seen a lot of growth in terms of data. Especially countries like Saudi and UAE are probably the two dominant markets that we see. The buying trend definitely reduced over the last 2 years, especially in terms of infrastructure and services. However, the criticality in terms of the content and the data itself increased much more. We saw a lot of newer challenges coming in that we did not see, for example, post pre-pandemic. So what the type of data challenges that we see now are spanning across different working environments, especially when it comes to the hybrid model. Because just to give you an example, the same, let's say, an enterprise application that you used to access while you were within the office premises, now all of a sudden you have to be able to access the same enterprise application from your home, which is of course not easy from a data management perspective, as well as a accessibility perspective. And then in terms of industries, we've seen some of them being hit big time. And at the same time, we are seeing some industries that have sustained well. So for example, industries like airline sectors and hospitality sectors, these are some of the industries that were hit very, very badly. However, the banking and telco sectors, fintech, they probably sustained in a much better way. However, when we talk about unstructured and content data, I mean, that really spans across all industries. I mean, every organization has this unstructured data growth, massive, that we have seen, over the years.
Yeah, great. And I think with the expo around the corner, it'll give a boost to a lot of activities and government spending, etc. So I think we need to stay positive, and good times are on the horizon for all of us. And I'm noticing almost 11 minutes over time. So I'm going to thank the audience for being here. For those who could not make it, I've received some emails from people who have requested for a recording. So yes, you will get through email a link to the recording, which you can view later. Also, it will be posted on onlywebinars.com along with the podcast. So feel free to visit this website later this afternoon to get a copy of this presentation. So thank you, Rehan, once again, and thank you, Santosh, for your excellent presentations. Let's keep the conversation going. I'm sure we'll be having more such sessions. So those who missed out this time can always join in next time. So thank you, audience, for investing your 70 minutes with us. And stay safe, and we'll see you on the other side. Thank you, and bye for now.